Good morning, Mr. Jackson. I wanted to take a moment this morning to respond to your comment on BZ Alfred Fleming's Facebook page. I want to start off by saying that I respect the fact that you're willing to discuss this subject in an intelligent manner because racism and race relations and American history is such a heated subject. It's very hard for people to discuss this subject matter without it descending into a shouting match of racial slurs and bantering back and forth, bickering over foolishness. So what I want to do this morning is I want to address the comments that you made. And at the same time, I want to share a little bit about myself in hopes that it may help you to possibly understand people who have a different point of view from the point of view that you are or have espoused here on Facebook. So let me read your words. I hear you, Emerson, and thank you for sharing these thoughts. It's just that I don't have any family members and don't think I have any friends who hate anybody for their race. Mr. Jackson, while that may be true, anything is possible. I find that highly unlikely that in these United States, none of your family members or none of your friends are racist. There was a time in my life, Mr. Jackson, when I felt the same way. I felt that none of my friends, none of my family were racist. I understand how you feel. I felt the same way. But what I found as I evolved as a person was this. Many of the racist attitudes that I was inadvertently taught by the people who I grew up around, they never just came out and said, hey, in this family, we're racist. But you know what? Let me ask you this question. Has anybody in your family ever called anybody a nigger? Has anybody in your family ever told a racist joke and found it to be amusing? Any of your family? Any of your friends? Now let's be honest with each other. I can tell you that there were many members of my family who distrusted white people simply because they were white. They never said, hey, we're racist against white people. No, we just didn't trust white people. I want you to think about that. For no other reason than your skin is white, I distrust you. Because see, if you have friends or you have family members who are comfortable using racial slurs around you, who are comfortable telling racist jokes, who are comfortable sitting back and watching racists operate, which is where a lot of people are, you might not actually be the cutthroat in your organization. But you're in the break room or you in the boardroom when they figuring out how not to promote that female, how not to promote that Jew, how not to promote that black. You sitting in the room, you don't stand up and say anything. Why? Why is that? Now I'm telling you my own personal journey. Why are we comfortable sitting in the room when people are disparaging other people? Why don't we stand up when we see people taking advantage of other people for whatever reason, whether it's they're female, whether they're different race, color, creed, national origin? Because you see, it's not racists that are destroying America. It's those people who are comfortable sitting on the sidelines watching it go on. They're comfortable sitting in the room when racist jokes are being told. They're comfortable sitting in the room when people are being discriminated against. They're comfortable being at a rally, walking side by side with people who are screaming racial epithets, with people who are carrying Nazi flags. They're comfortable they're comfortable celebrating a man who was not only a racist, but an anarchist. That's Robert E. Lee. He was not only was he a racist, he was an anarchist. He turned against his own nation, his own brothers. Why? Because we want slaves. We want to be able to subjugate other human beings. We want to be able to go down to the slave house and rape young girls and young boys and grown women and grown men. You want to talk about history? That is your history that you're talking about. You're a defender of history. Let's talk about that. You spoke on here about I'm a defend, that when other people show up as we're defending history, we're blamed. Okay, guess what? I spent 6 years in Germany. I never saw one swastika. It is illegal in Germany to throw up the Heil Hitler sign. Illegal. You will be arrested and taken to jail. I never saw one statue of Hitler. Now, do you think that Hitler is a prominent part of German history? Do you think that the swastika is a prominent part of German history? Do you think that Heil Hitler is a prominent part of German history? In Germany, all of those things will have you going to jail. Why do you think that is? It's because that represented hatred. Hitler represented hatred. Robert E. Lee represented hatred. Robert E. Lee almost destroyed the country. Hitler almost destroyed the country. The swastika represented people who were haters who almost destroyed the country. So Germany does not celebrate Hitler or swastikas or Heil Hitler signs. Of course it's a part of their history, but they don't celebrate it. They don't put statues up for Hitler. Now I'm going to say something that is probably going to shock you. Hitler is one of the greatest orators I have ever seen in my entire life. As a matter of fact, part of the reason that I am the great speaker I am today is because of Hitler, believe it or not. As a young boy, I watched World War II films, and I would listen to this powerful leader speak. I couldn't even understand what he was saying, but he spoke so powerfully that whatever organization he was a part of, I was ready to sign up. That's the truth. I was ready to join the Third Reich. Couldn't even speak German. Yes, he was powerful. But you don't celebrate people who are mass murderers. You don't celebrate people who hung and raped and pillaged, regardless of what positive characteristics that they had. You don't celebrate that type of stuff. Whether they're a part of history or not, you don't celebrate it. You take the positive from it. I can respect the fact that people like Robert E. Lee and Nathan Bedford Forrest were men who were willing to fight and die for what they believe in. Got it. But these men were killers, rapists. There's no getting around that. And if they weren't killers and racists themselves personally, which we know that both Robert E. Lee and Nathan Bedford Forrest were, they also supported a system that allowed pedophilia, that subjugated an entire race. And do you actually believe that I can support their history without being painted with the same brush for what they stood for? You think I could hang out with people who espouse wicked ideologies without being painted with those ideologies? It's not possible. I'm not a pedophile, but if you go on your internet, if you go on Facebook and you see me constantly defending pedophilia, sex with young children, do you really think that it's going to be possible for me to then come back and say, well, none of my friends are pedophiles, none of my family is pedophiles, I don't know any pedophiles, but I just like to remember that pedophilia is a part of American history. But please don't label me as a pedophile. I may want to defend the statue of a pedophile, but please don't label me as a pedophile. As a young boy, my parents taught me to class myself. They say you shouldn't judge anybody, son, because not even God judges man until after he's dead. But you have to class yourself. You can't hang around drug dealers without being labeled a drug dealer. You can't hang around pimps without being labeled a pimp. You can't hang around people who espouse certain views without those views being painted on you also. It's not possible. And if I'm comfortable hanging around drug dealers, what does that say about me? If I'm comfortable hanging around pedophiles, what does that say about me? If I'm comfortable hanging around haters, racist, what does that say about me? If I'm comfortable being in conversations where people use racial slurs, what does that say about me? What does that say? I understand. If someone who does hate happens to agree with me on any matter, then the opposing hate groups, socialist media, feel justified in labeling me. So if I lived in your neighborhood and let's say I live next door to you and I had family members who are gangsters and thugs, and they were constantly at my house doing gangster and thug things, what would you label me? And let's just be real. I have family members who are in gangs. I have family members who are Bloods. They don't come to my house. You'll never see me hanging out with a group of Bloods. These people are my family. I picked some of these people up when they were little kids and flew them through the air like an airplane. But when they chose that lifestyle, I had to make a choice. I can't have you at my house. I can't have you at my house where somebody gonna come by and do a drive-by on my front porch because you're here. And that's what you need to understand. You can't hang out in the space of racist without being a part of the collateral damage. Now, I want you to imagine some of my family members who are certified gangsters sitting on my front porch. We ain't bothering nobody. Do you think when the rival gang comes by and gets ready to do a drive-by, they're going to say, you know what? We're not going to shoot Emerson. He's not a gangster. We're just going to shoot the members of his family that are gangsters. It doesn't work like that. And I can share with you this. It's hard to recognize a racist if you a racist. And it takes a racist to know a racist. I was racist all the way up to about the age of probably about 25, 26 years old. I was racist with a white girlfriend on my arm. Let me repeat that. I was a racist with a white woman on my arm. Didn't trust white men just because of the fact that they was white. And during that time, when I was a racist, I didn't recognize that any of my friends and family were racist. The Bible says when I was a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. And I can honestly share with you today that when I was a racist, I thought as a racist. And I didn't see the world as it was, I saw the world as I was. It was okay for me to hang out with friends and family who called white people crackers. It was okay for me to be in situations where I stood back and I watched people disrespect white people and didn't say anything. That was okay with me. Why? Because I was a racist. But when I evolved and became enlightened, I didn't tolerate those type of people in my space, and I wouldn't be in the same space as those type of people. There was a time when I tolerated gangsters and drug dealers. I don't tolerate them no more. Family or not, you can't come to my house. You a gangster? You living that lifestyle? You bout that life? I'm not bout that life. So we can't hang out together no more. I still love you from a distance, but we can't hang out. And I'm not going to be on Facebook defending gangsters because my family's gangsters. And gangsterism is a part of American history. And when you go back and you study how gangs were formed, they actually were formed simply to protect neighborhoods. So I could go back and espouse the fact that they started off with a positive purpose. But we know what they're doing today. Just like we know what the Klan is doing today. We know what neo-Nazis are doing today. And if I decide that I am going to tolerate, support, venerate people who are doing negative things, whether I want to call it American history or whatever else, what about the American history of the soldiers that were killed fighting Nazi Germany? And now you find yourself on the same side of history as people who are marching with Nazi flags in America. That's a disgrace. Do you understand? We talk about history here, right? There's no way I'm going to find myself marching down the street or supporting people waving a Nazi flag. I'm not going to be supporting gangsters, drug dealers, murderers, rapists for any reason, whether it's historical or not. I'm trying to share this with you because I want you to understand what you look like to people on the outside. That is the exact same thing as if I live next door to you and my family members who are members of the Bloods showed up and hung out at my house on the weekends. You can't tell me you wouldn't label me a gangster. I don't believe it if you do. I don't think you believe it. I guarantee you would label me a gangster. Despite the fact that I have a PhD in divinity, despite the fact that I served my country for 31 years, despite all of that, the fact that I'm an archbishop, despite all of that, if my family members who are Bloods spent their weekends smoking weed, drinking loud music on my front porch, and I live next door to you, you would label me also a gangster. So if you, Beezy, and others that espouse the beliefs that you espouse want to get away from the label of being a racist, then you're going to have to make the same choice that I had to make. I am not going to occupy the same space as criminals. Robert E. Lee was a criminal. Nathan Bedford Forrest, criminal. They weren't trying to build the nation, they tried to divide the nation. And like I said earlier, every man has positive attributes, even Hitler. He pulled himself up by his bootstraps. He went from homeless to Führer. I studied his history. I read the book Mein Kampf which is German for my fight. Still, there's no pictures of Hitler on my wall. There's no swastikas. I studied the Third Reich. I also studied the First Reich and the Second Reich. I love history. The First Reich was when Alexander tried to take over the world. So you talk about somebody who loved history, you're looking at one of them. But I don't celebrate negative people, negative attitudes. So I hope today that I've been able to share a little bit about myself, a little bit about my journey, in the hopes that you will understand why you are being painted as racist. You can't support racist. You can't hang out with racists. Even though you just happen to be at the same rally, you cannot do it and not be labeled a racist. And deeper than that, you have to ask yourself, why am I comfortable in the same spaces as racists? God bless you. Thank you for your time.